glad to see everybody here on a beautiful fall Oklahoma morning to celebrate with us this induction ceremony. I'd like to start by getting our minds and our thoughts in the direction that I hope the ceremony will take. If you'll turn over to page 11 and 12 in your program, I want us to kind of calm our minds and our heart and just take a little bit of time to reflect on all the other 21 years of inductees that we've had the privilege to put in to the SPAM organization. I think it's a great opportunity to remember them, and I think it's a great opportunity to reflect on the impact that they have had on us here in Stillwater, but everywhere in the United States. These people are leaders in their communities and have genuinely impacted the citizens that were around them. So if you would just take a few minutes and reflect on that, and then I will ask John Pryor to open us with a word of prayer. John, you want to come open us with a word of prayer?
Will you all join me in prayer, please? Our Father in heaven, we are really grateful that we can come and share in the memories this morning of these folks that we're going to be talking about. Most of us here have great fondness regarding the memories of our time in high school, the relationships that we started then that over the years have blossomed, and friends have become like family. And it's always with great joy when we gather together and visit and recall things that were just fun and good. I'm glad that we can gather this morning, and because of all the memories that are going to gather around us. I especially think of one, Greg Sherrill, a member of our class, and I recall his pleasant smile, his ready wit, and his friendship. And it just makes me feel good that we can come and remember him in a special way. We thank you for all those who are being inducted, the examples they set, the joy that they planted in our lives, and the memories that we will bring forth this morning in our hearts. And with that in mind, we just ask you to bless these proceedings in a special way. I just pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, John. I wanted to start things off this morning by introducing a few people that have been very helpful to us. I think I saw Uwe Gordon back there as a principal at the high school, and he had really been over backwards to help us organize this thing and allows us to use the facility. We're glad that he's here. I saw several head coaches that are here, some former head coaches. Coach Davis in the back, Coach Chesbro's in the back, Coach DeFee sitting right up there. Got a former Pioneer coach, Coach Warner's around here somewhere. We welcome them all here. We also have some members of the 50th anniversary state champions from Stillwater High School that are here. They had a neat ceremony last night at the ball game, and we welcome them back as well. It's fun to see them. If they would, don't want to embarrass them, but would the board of directors of the SPAM group stand? I want everybody to kind of see who they are. There's a list of them on the back. These people are all volunteers, and we do this because we love doing it, and it's a lot of fun, and it's a well-received ceremony, and ultimately it also allows us to give out a scholarship each year. We do have, I saw one scholarship recipient here. Is there, Jennifer, stand up if you would. Is she the only one? Okay, there's two of them here. These people are going to college. And we are so pleased to be involved in helping them go to school. We give a $10,000 scholarship each year to one student that's graduated from Stillwater High School that participated in athletics and is going to a school in Oklahoma. So our goal is to keep doing that and maybe get it up a little higher. But we're pleased that you guys are here today. Our TV 31 crew is here. I just wanted to make you aware, if you're walking back here, try to go behind them because we're filming this thing and we're going to hand all the families of the inductees a copy of this ceremony so that they can have it to remember this by. So be aware of that. You know, we look at this ceremony as a time to honor the inductees that are being placed into the SPAM, but we also want to remember why we do this. One of the things that we have seen as people involved with the board is the great impact that the extracurricular activity of athletics has had on people's lives. And if it wasn't for athletics, there's a lot of people that wouldn't have been able to have the success they've had because it has taught them life skills in a short time, and it teaches so many things that we use in life. And so we want to remember that as we go through the ceremony today, and just view education and athletics as an important aspect of going to school. Okay? We will take pictures after the ceremony. We're not sure who's going to take pictures. We've got 2 or 3 candidates. Okay, Mr. Helps is officially going to be the picture taker. So after the ceremony, we're going to ask each family to come up, and the presenter will be with them, and we'll get a group picture, and we will save that for you guys and allow you to have a copy of it and in remembrance of the ceremony. Okay? So don't forget afterwards. We'll try not to do it during the ceremony because it just slows things down. Okay, if you would turn to the very back of your program, I want to emphasize something that we have done. Education in Oklahoma right now is a very difficult thing, and I think teachers are underpaid. I think teachers are underprivileged. They just don't get appreciation that they should. And we want to recognize teachers. So what we have done is we have started a new award. And the way we deal with this is when we do our scholarship each spring, we have anywhere from 10 to 20 kids that apply. And on that application, we always ask them, who is your favorite teacher and why? And then as we narrow it down, we actually interview 3 to 4 kids in front of the board, and we talk to them quite interestedly in that aspect of their education. Because what we're finding is that teachers have a great impact on kids. And when you have a good one, they really mold you and give you a direction in life. Today we would like to recognize one of those teachers. And if you'll notice, we're calling it the Pioneer Difference Maker because they have made a big difference in some of these kids' lives as they've gone through Stillwater High School. This year, we would like to recognize Jennifer White. Jennifer, if you'd come up. Now, Jennifer didn't know anything about this, so Mr. Gordon kind of made her come, and she had no idea that this was happening. But Jennifer, on behalf of the SPAM board, we'd like to give you this because you have been recognized by these kids that go through of doing a good job. And also, I've got a check here for you. Somewhere. We got a check for $500 for Jennifer. Thank you. She was walking around saying, "Why am I here?" That's the fun part of doing this, is we get an opportunity to do some things that need to be done that don't always get done. Okay, we are now going to get into the part of the program where we induct 5 people. And the first person that we're going to induct is going to be presented by Don Garner. Don, if you'll come up, he's going to present John Tombaugh.
Thank you, Tom. Welcome to all that are here, and particularly the families of those that are being inducted. Clint Cook said to me as I came in the door, he said, you and Stan Ward probably hold the record for having the most people presented into the SPAM Memorial group. And I said, well, when you get to be as old as we are, there are not many left to do the presentation. So today I have the privilege of doing 2. The first, John Trumbull, who probably is the most unique member of this group. When you consider that here's a young man that never played a down of football, never shot a basket, never hit a baseball, yet he is being inducted into this organization because of what he contributed as a young man who, as you read in your program, at the age of 13, had polio and then remained paralyzed from the waist down the rest of his life. However, to say that that in any way slowed him down would be a very, very big mistake. Those of us who played in that day will tell you that the most supportive person that we ever had was John Trumbull. And all of us would be so excited on Saturday after the game when the Stillwater News Press would publish the recap of the game on Friday night that John Trumbull had written, to see just how good we were that night, and it was always exciting. He always wrote great articles, and he was always so complimentary to all of us that were playing. I've always told in my whole life to everyone who knew that in that season of 1953, which all of us were 54 graduates, that I was fortunate enough to be selected that year as an all-state football player and participate in the all-state game in Oklahoma City, sponsored by the Daily Oklahoman. And people say, were you really that good? And I said, no, I wasn't, but I had a great sports writer that could make me look good. So I have always had to say to John through the years that it was quite thrilling to read every article that he'd ever written about myself and all of our teammates. Also, it's kind of interesting that John went on up to Oklahoma A&M at that time, and he met a gal from Chattanooga, Tennessee, by the name of Betty Ludeman, and they started dating one another. And it just so happened at the time that the gal that I was dating and Betty were sorority sisters. So John and I got to socialize a lot with everything that was going on at that time within the sorority and fraternity system. But we had always remained friends, and I don't guess there was ever anyone that I ever knew that didn't appreciate all the talent that John had. He went on to be an executive as an accountant. He ended up in Houston, where he and Betty had a daughter. And when that daughter got old enough to go to college, she went to Baylor University and got her degree in accounting, just like her father had. And while she was away at college, her mother decided to go back to college and get her degree in accounting. So as it ended up, mom and dad and daughter all had accounting degrees. And later, after he had retired, the daughter was living in Florida, and Betty and John moved to Florida and opened their own accounting firm. And so you had mom and dad and daughter all working in the same accounting firm. So it was quite a family affair, and we're sorry that the daughter could not be here today. But as you read the bio in your program, I want to say a special thanks to John's sister, Barbara Overholt, who is with us today, because she was the one that wrote that bio. And if you read it, you find out just how great a young man who had polio can be. So I would like to invite the Overholt family that are here, which includes Barbara, his daughter, Mary Jo, his oldest. Let me start back over. Mary Jo is John's oldest sister. Barbara is his youngest sister, and Mary Jo's daughter is here, and I'd like for all three of them to come up as we present them with the memorial plaque. We have put together inside this envelope some articles and so forth, memorabilia that we want to give to the family. And then here is the plaque, and we thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks. Okay, our second inductee is Les Welker, and once again, Don is going to have the privilege of introducing that person, okay?
Don't worry, this is my last one. So, but here again, I was very honored by the Welker family to be invited to do the presentation for Les. As most of you know, that team that we had in 1953-54 season was a very, very powerful football team. We had 19 seniors on that team, and of the 19, we had 12 be offered scholarships to either a Division I school or a Division II school. And so as you might imagine, we took care of business when we walked onto the field. It was kind of unique in that Les was offered a scholarship to the University of Colorado. And when you stop and think about Stillwater, Oklahoma, and you say, how in the world does a college like the University of Colorado find out about a young man who's playing football in Stillwater, Oklahoma? But those of you that are too young to remember, back in the day, Coach Ralph Tate was our head coach and Coach Jim Harris was our assistant coach. And we were one of the few high schools that ran a formation, for those of you who are very knowledgeable of football, called the single wing. And at that time, there were about 5 major colleges throughout the United States that still ran the single wing formation. One was Colorado, one was Wyoming, one was UCLA. I can't remember the other two. There were 5 of them, but anyhow, those schools that ran the single wing always were very much aware of Coach Ralph Tate and the Stillwater Pioneers. So it was not unusual for a young man like Les, who was our tailback and was the mainstay of our team, to be offered a scholarship to Colorado. We were all very, very proud of Les, and he went up to Colorado and he played up there for 2 years, and he quite honestly got homesick. Not so much homesick for all of us that graduated with him, but for a young lady called Joey Collins, who they started dating when they were like juniors in high school, and he goes up to Boulder, Colorado, and she's here attending Oklahoma A&M, and that was just too much distance. So at the end of his sophomore year, he thanked Colorado for all their niceties and so forth, came back to Stillwater, enrolled at Oklahoma State University, and married Joy. And this was a great marriage that has lasted through all the years, and if you read the bio, that bio was written by Joy. Now, she couldn't be here today because she is at the point to where she just can't travel anymore. But we were very, very surprised and glad that 3 of their children are here today, and a daughter-in-law, and we had the privilege, Meredith and I, last night of having them out at our home, and we had the best time reminiscing about Joy and Les and all the things that we did as we were growing up and so forth. And I had the 1954 scrapbook that I had gotten from the museum, and so they got a big kick out of looking at all the things that were there and so forth. During their marriage, they had 7 children. And the oldest is Brett. He was born in 1957. Then they had Scott, and then they had Mark, and then they had Leslie, and then they had Sally, and then they had Holly, and then they had Lance. And over that period of time, that encompassed 18 years from the oldest to the youngest, huh? which I thought was just amazing, you know. But and now they have, in addition to the 7 children, they have 7 grandsons and 8 granddaughters and 1 great-great-granddaughter. So they have really done well in their marriage, producing some wonderful, wonderful children. And if you read in the bio, it says in there that one of the things that Les is most proud of is the fact that he was able to enjoy all the things that he could with all of their children. And we spent some FaceTime last night with Joy, and she was so apologetic that she couldn't be here, but we told her that she would be in our thoughts and prayers, and so we just had such a good time. But we're so lucky to have with us this morning the children and daughter-in-law. So if you all would come forward, we'll make the presentation. Okay? It's Brett and his wife Pam, and daughter Leslie and daughter Holly. Okay?
Thanks, Don. Thank you, Don. Our next inductee is a person that's well known here in Stillwater for a number of reasons. A lot of times when you come back to Stillwater for a visit, you're going to go eat at the Hideaway. And Richard is a person that I think gave that restaurant the emphasis that it has today. So Richard Dermer is our next inductee, and here to present him is Bob McCracken.
Tom, thank you very much for all that you do, and also all the people that are involved in the spam business. It's really a great thing that happens to the city of Stillwater, the school, to acknowledge people who have contributed something in the athletic world. And I agree particularly with you when you say it is a life-changing experience. People learn things in the athletic business that stays with them for life. I also want to thank Marty. Where are you, Marty? You did show up. I'm glad. I was a little worried about you first. I want to thank Marty for giving me a second opportunity, really, to say a few things about her husband, Richard Dermer, who, as Tom pointed out, cranked up that Hideaway, and for 60 years they made a heck of a go out of that business. I don't know if anybody knows about it in here, but last week we had the 60th year anniversary of our graduation from high school class of 1957. But I'm sure you might not know about that, but what you do know, I'm sure, is that the class of 1957 was probably the best class to ever come out of Stillwater High School. Well, I'm sure I won't get unanimous agreement with that out of everybody, but we sure had unanimous agreement last week when we all got together, and minus the 60 that aren't with us anymore, so we're trying to keep up with the class of 54 in that regard. And one of the things that we missed about the reunion was this was the first one, I think, that Richard missed. And one of the things we missed about Richard was he always had something to amuse the class with these get-togethers. Regardless of what it was. For instance, we had a get-together, I think I was still in the Air Force at the time. I made it back for it, and it was a get-together out east of town. And Richard was standing out there flying this little bitty kite. This kite was probably about this big. I'll turn it up right side up so it'll look like a kite. This kite, and I said, "Dermer, what are you doing?" He said, "I'm flying a kite, McCracken. What do you think?" And I said, "Well, that's a pretty little bitty kite." He said, "You know what the spars on this kite are made of?" I said, "No, I don't." He said, "They're made out of tiger whiskers." Then he pointed out to me that tiger whiskers are very light and they're hollow. And I said, "Dermer, I'm going to terminate this conversation, and I'll tell you why. I kind of think that somebody from the FBI is going to come and get you because that's probably endangered species stuff, and some wackos probably called them up to put you in jail, so I'm not going to be around. But this is a thing that Richard did. Every reunion had something going on like that to get people's attention. He was great at it. Last week, we kind of dedicated the whole reunion to Richard. And one of the things that we did was get together, pool some resources, and put up a little tribute to the Dermers and the Hideaway. So if you get a chance to stop by the Hideaway, take a look at it. I think the things that we wrote and put on that thing are very well encapsulate the Dermer philosophy and the Hideaway philosophy as far as the way they like to treat people and the way they treat their customers, particularly. And it's hard not to talk about the Hideaway when Richard Dermer's name comes up. That was a focus of his life for about 60 years. And the story of how he got it is interesting, but it's all written in the bio, so I'm not going to bore you with any more details about it. The Hideaway philosophy is one that I think is of interest. Now, once in a while I get these, I guess they're kind of testimonials or studies or something that's done by this Mercatus Institute up in Washington, D.C. And one of the things that the last one that I read pointed out was when employers start hiring people, the people that they're hiring don't have what they call soft skills. And they define those soft skills as leadership, as communication, and as work ethic. Now, when Dermer hires these kids, and he hired some 5,000 of them over the years, they come out of the Hideaway experience with those kind of soft skills that augment what they learn across the street at Oklahoma State. And along with the athletic stuff, so do those soft skills get developed in places like the Hideaway. And to this day, you can't find a kid in that place that's working that's not absolutely interested in making you happy as a customer in the Hideaway. And if I've said some of these things last week to some of our classmates, so play games on your cell phone if you want to while I mention the next thing. A pretty smart guy told me one time that there were 4 things that keeps people from not doing their jobs. One of them, they don't have the time to do them. Number 2, they don't have the tools to do those jobs. Number 3, they don't have the training to do those jobs. And the last one is they don't give a damn. I will say that the Dermers handled all of those things very, very carefully and with aplomb when it came to operating the Hideaway. All things worked out, and kids came out of there understanding all of those things at the Hideaway. Now, I didn't come to Stillwater till I was in the 9th grade. We called ourselves freshmen then. I don't know what they call them anymore. They're fresh persons? I don't know. But one of the guys, when I first got acquainted with Richard, one of the first things that I thought about this guy is this is a smart son of a gun. And he must be smart, and one of the reasons is because he wore glasses. In those days, people that wore glasses were smart, whether they're boys or girls, they were all smart just because they had glasses. And I don't know why that was. I think it's probably because all of us that didn't wear glasses at the time thought they'd been reading so much that they ruined their eyes. But anyhow, it took me 45 years to get these things on. And when the doctor said you're going to have glasses, he mentioned this word presbyopia. I don't know what that is. Presbyopia. Well, for those of you who weren't in the class of 1957, you would automatically know what that is. All that means is old eyes. So it got to be a little bit less scary when I found out what it was all about. But anyhow, another thing that made Richard smart was he played this game called chess. I didn't know what chess was. Mostly, and to this day, I don't know much about it. I do know that it was played on a checkerboard. And I do know that this little horse head did some funny moves that could do a lot of damage to the opposition. That's about all I know about it. But so always a smart guy. I'm not going to repeat all the stuff that's in the bio. I'll let you guys take a look at that yourself. There's one thing that I wanted to add to it, however, and that is that the Stillwater All-School News. This was really Richard's baby. He transferred a mimeograph piece of paper. Anybody not know what a mimeograph is? Yeah, if you're not at least 65 years old, you probably don't know what that is. All you really got to know about a mimeograph is it gets purple ink on your pants. It never comes off. But anyway, he transferred a thing called the wagon wheel into a real newspaper. He dispatched all of his reporters out to the various grade schools, of which we didn't have too many in those days, and the junior high, and he consolidated it and once a week published the Stillwater All-School News. And to this day, the Stillwater News Press puts in weekly articles about the school system. And Dermer actually got all of that started. I guess you can say a lot about Dermer, but if you don't say things like he was well-informed, intelligent, versatile, friendly, you're probably mischaracterizing him, because he was all of those. I never knew Richard to badmouth anybody or to criticize people unduly. He was just a pretty good guy. And I guess that's what I can say about it. Dermer was a good man. He had a fun time in life, and he had a fun life. Thanks again. Marty, if you'll come up, we'll give you this little thing to hang in the hideaway. Did you bring anybody with you? There's a lot. There you go.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. This is really beautiful. It really is beautiful. And yes, it will be hung at the highway. Come look.
Thanks, Bob.
I told Marty when she came in to help me with the bio on Richard that my wife and I, Kathy, had one of our first dates at the Hideaway back when it was still over in the little side. So there's a lot of memories in that restaurant. Our next inductee is Greg Sherrill. He is the class of 1966, and here to present him is Doug Wilsey.
Well, I'm pleased to honor Greg Sherrill. He was a good friend of mine and a fellow classmate of the class of 1966. I guess the second best class of Stillwater High School on record. Some of my information I got from one of his best friends, Jim Scheidler, who canceled a meeting in Michigan and came all the way here. Also from his sister Pam, who's here, and his wife Marty in Tulsa, who couldn't be here today. It's said that a picture paints 1,000 words, and if that's the case, Greg Sherrill spoke volumes. He took thousands of pictures a year. He was a school photographer, along with Jim Scheidler, the photographers for a high school annual. And when he wasn't playing football or running track, or not running track, doing the shot and the putting the shot in track, he was taking pictures of the other sports. He was also taking pictures of people's weddings, and he was taking pictures for 12 years over for Channel 8 in Tulsa, around the state and around the country, and even some in Europe. But before his adult life as a successful photographer, he was a Stillwater pioneer. He played line here offensively and defensively, and again did the weights in the track. He was in the Letterman's Club. He was one of my best friends. And we did the usual things in the 1960s. All the boys and the girls would go out to the Ripley graveyard at night and see who could scare. Somebody would scream and we'd all run out. We'd try to go out to the rock at Lake Harl Blackwell, and our swimming suits would always come back red dirt, just the color of the lake out there. But most of all, we circled the loop from Sonic to Griff's 1,000,000 times, looking for a girl, any girl who would talk to us, or just trying to find anything exciting to do in Stillwater in 1965. So I got to know Greg really pretty well, and got to know him. He was such an optimistic, good guy, a man of the times, never complained, never talked badly about anybody. He was cheerful, had curly red hair, twinkling eyes, and one of his grandsons, Noah, is already getting freckles like Greg had. One granddaughter's already starting to get his curly hair. He attended OSU after he graduated here in 1966. In 1968, he was called away to Vietnam, and he was on a 16-foot patrol boat going up and down the rivers getting shot at, never got hurt or anything. Jim Scheidler, again, who is here to make him feel at home, sent him a real famous picture, a poster of Farrah Fawcett Majors. A lot of us guys remember that poster. Greg sent back an enemy Viet Cong bullet. He also said that going to Vietnam was the best thing that ever happened to him. It made him grow up, made him give a new perspective and see what life was really like. So that's really typical of Greg Sherrill. You know, being dealt lemons, that's the best thing in the life that could happen to him, and making lemonade out of it. So he was always an optimist and always ready to serve. He, in 1973, graduated from a prestigious Brooks Institute in Santa Barbara with a degree in cinematography, and then he got his start at Channel 8 News, the ABC affiliate there, and spent 12 years there in sports and news, taking pictures and becoming head photographer, and traveling a lot of the United States. Some of the special projects with Parker Drilling, he went up to the North Shore and took pictures of how hard it is to produce oil in northern Alaska in minus 47 degrees. He traveled to many states doing reports, and to several countries in Europe doing special projects in journalism. He then left journalism for a while, had a private business in woodworking, which he loved, was successful, sold that, and then after he retired of that, went into education and used his journalism background and photography background with the Tulsa Public Schools, initiating programs in teaching audiovisual things long distance. And so he did that for a number of years. He died suddenly and unexpectedly of natural causes at 51, but his wife Marty said he packed a tremendous amount of things into those short 51 years. He loved his boys. He had 2 boys. The last year of his life, Marty told me, was probably his best year, filled with graduations and marriages and their boys starting their life. It's been 50 years since Greg was here, and 50 years since he and I cruised Main Street. But he was so typical of those years, so typical of the culture of Stillwater High School and of Midwestern Oklahoma. He was such an innocent guy, so typical of that time, just innocent, optimistic, humorous. Kind of like Tom Brokaw's The Greatest Generation. He never asked for much at all and gave plenty. For those of you that are football aficionados, he was number 66. We were linemen. He was a lineman. He blocked for others. He didn't carry the ball. He really wasn't in the limelight. He was the great photographer who took the picture. There are famous pictures, but we often forget the guy who was behind the lens. And that's what Greg Sherrill was all through his life. He served his country well, 2 years in Vietnam, had a wonderful family life, served us here at Stillwater, taking pictures of us, and then was very active in his Catholic church for a number of years, both attending and teaching there. So basically, he was a great guy to serve in all these ways as photographer, good soldier, husband, and a great talented pioneer. So it's my pleasure and to honor Greg as a member of the 2017 Pioneer Award. So thank you. And I think his sister Marty is here. And we have a plaque for her. Pam, I'm sorry. What? Pam, I'm sorry. Pam, on behalf of the board of the Stillwater Pioneer Athletic Memorial, we want to say thank you for coming and tell you what a special guy he was. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. Our last inductee is a young man that I had the privilege to teach and coach while he was here at Stillwater High School. And I know Coach Warner is here as one of his coaches, and Coach DeFee as well. We're here because we want to honor him and remember him. The young man that's going to present him, I also had the privilege to coach, and that's Coach Davis. Coach Davis looks a little different now than he did back then. He had hair back then. He was real skinny back then, kind of looked like a Q-tip. Coach Davis, come on up and present Eugene.
I'll wait till Jeff McMillan walks up here. Somehow I got nominated to present Eugene Dirks. Me and Jeff got together and with Coach Derringer's help, and I was the one selected to present Eugene. You know, we got together just having a little get together. Next thing you know, Chick, you do a great job presenting him. Okay. All right, so here I am. Up here I have Jeff McMillan, what, 4-time state champion golfer? Wow. And Zach Webster, you know, I've been listening to these guys, you know, the original pioneers speak before I got up here, and they talk about how good their class was and stuff like that. Well, class of 78 was pretty good. You know, there's this pro team in Dallas called the Dallas Cowboys, and they had this set of triplets, Emmett, Michael, and Troy. Well, when 78, on our football team, we had some triplets. Zach Webster was one of those triplets, unique wide receiver, unbelievable speed. I tell a story about Zach. When I think we were playing cushion, and Kevin Sasser threw an interception, and this guy was running down the sideline, and Zach was in the far corner, and Zach raced all the way down the field, and he caught this guy before this guy got it in the end zone. I mean, that's the kind of speed Zach Webster had. And we were talking about Eugene. Eugene was the other part of one of the triplets, and then our quarterback was Kevin Sasser. So to me, not disrespecting anything or anybody before us, class of 78 was pretty special. We were pretty special. Although Zach and Eugene, they lost the state final game to Duncan 7-3. Wasn't that the final score? Something say he said 17-6. So they made state finals. So that was a highlight of their football career. But in our program, we have a bio. You know, you guys can read it, and it talks about Eugene. But as I was sitting there, you know, knowing I had to speak, I put together what I felt about Eugene. So it goes like this. Most of you guys know me. Most people don't know my real name is Michael. Most people here know me as Chick that I went to school with. But I'm here to talk about a good friend of mine. Most of you guys, as the program says, his name was Eugene Lamar Dirks, but I knew him as Duck. We knew him as Duck. So let me tell you a little about Duck. These are the few of the components that Duck was made of. First, the letter D. This letter stands for determined, diligent, and dedicated with all the hard work he put in. And he did it with a smile. I mean, I was talking to Zach a while ago, talking about hard work. I remember Coach Warner, Eugene was left-handed, and if anybody know anything about Eugene, he was determined he was going to use his left hand. And so we couldn't do this today in basketball practice. I know because I'm coaching the high school team here. Somehow Eugene ended up with his left hand behind him, and we were doing a chair drill, and Coach Warner was determined Eugene was going to use his right hand that day. And so through all that, it was funny because it was funny seeing Duck go through those chairs and running over those chairs because he couldn't use his left hand. So he was determined that he's going to prove his point. So now I'll get to the letter U. This letter stands for unique, unbelievable, and unforgettable. I think we can all agree this is why we are here today. Eugene was an unbelievable athlete. I mean, you talk about could jump up and dunk, could run. I think he won state championship in track in the 3:30 intermediates, and I think it stood for like 20 years. And he was very gifted. He's one of those athletes that if he set his mind to do it, he could just do it. So that was a unique deal about Eugene. We get to the letter C. This letter stands for caring, character, and courageous. He wasn't afraid to try anything, you know. Zach and I spent a lot of time with Eugene, and so we knew he wasn't afraid of anything. And we get to the letter K. There is one important word that comes to mind for this letter. It's the word kind. It reminds me a lot of a song that Tim McGraw sings. And I know I'm going to blow Jeff and Zach away. Tim McGraw is a country singer, and if you know anything about me, I'm R&B. So, but this song is called Humble and Kind, and these are the words to it. So in closing, I want to read these to you. And it goes like this. When childhood starts, shine. Always stay humble and kind. Hold the door. Say please. Say thank you. Don't steal. Don't cheat. Don't lie. Always stay humble and kind. I know you've got mountains to climb. Always stay humble and kind. When the dreams you're dreaming come to you, when the work you put in is realized, let yourself feel the pride, but always stay humble and kind. Don't take for granted the love this life gives you. When you get where you're going, don't forget to turn back and help the next guy in line. Always stay humble and kind. These words will ever remind me of Eugene Lamar Dirks, also known as Duck. I will leave you today with this bit of advice. Maybe we should all try to live our life like a duck. Remain calm on the surface and pedal like hell underneath. Thank you. Can I have the Dirks family up here? Yes, Diane. So, as his older sister and his wife, Diane, come up here, we'd like to have all the Dirks family stand, and which one of you guys, and Ricky, come up. These are his brothers and sisters. This is his wife, Diane, his sister, Cassie, Renee, and his older brother, Ricky. So, on the behalf of the Stillwater Memorial, I'd like to present this to you guys.
Well, Chick was saying, which one of y'all is going to talk? Okay. The song words and the definition of duck was very befitting of my brother. If he walked into a room, there was a glow, and everybody gravitated to that. He was a kind spirit, but he was a warrior as well. So we all loved him, but we thank you guys for recognizing him.
Thanks, Coach Michael Davis. Appreciate that. You did a good job, Coach. Well, that's all of our inductees today. We want to make a pitch to you, and I'm going to have Max Talley come up and do that.
I'm the pitch man. I want to thank everybody for coming today. It's always an honor to see the families and the excitement that comes with this. We would like to ask your help If you know of a pioneer that might be a good candidate for induction, well, we're always searching. And we don't always hear about everybody, so in your travels, if you hear of somebody, if you'll let one of the board members know that would be a good candidate, we appreciate that. One of our charges that Coach Harris came up with was part of, we've talked about, is the endowment of funds, or the endowment that provides the funds for these scholarships. And over the years, we've been able to increase the amount of the scholarship with your help and friends' helps. And so here's the pitch. If you are out and your tax man at the end of the year says, well, Mr. Tom Derringer, you've earned too much money this year and you need to make a tax-free donation, we're the group. We would love to have a donation. Nothing's too small, nothing's too big. In the back, you'll see little envelopes like this. If you'd like to take them with you, that would be awesome, and we'll gladly accept them, and it's a tax-free donation. In conclusion, we would like to tell the families or ask the families to stay up front. We're going to take some pictures, and if there's anything else, that's it. Thank you for coming.